Welcome to the Radar Festival podcast. My name is Stewart Ireland.
I'm Julie Cottrell.
And we're joined by organisers Joe and Catherine. Welcome to
Hola.
the boudoir. Hola. I think it's fair to say we are low ebb energy, end of festival, which is odd because we're going to start at the beginning. It'll make sense. Anyway, we've been interviewing bands and artists as they've come through the festival over the weekend.
Yep.
You guys have helped us out with a few of those interviews, and also honourable mention to Jahan as well, who is managing the marketplace at the festival, who came and chatted.
That's underselling him. He's our partnerships manager, so
Yeah.
He does all our sponsorship and he curated the music market.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I'll go further.
He's
He's a force of nature.
Yes.
And without giving too much away, the interview that he helped me with will need some editing.
Yeah, that's the only thing he said to me about it afterwards. I said, "Oh, how did it go?" It's the first sort of thing he'd done.
Swearing or what?
And he said, "Oh, it's going to have to be cut a lot." And I said, "Oh, what was the thing?" He said, "I was the problem," and that's all he said. So I've no idea. I'd be interested to see the before and after.
It goes no further.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
But he was definitely the problem.
I asked him to do that as a nice thing because he loved Blood Command.
No, and he had a great time.
He did.
Okay.
So it's all good. Anyway, yeah. So throughout the next couple of weeks, we'll be putting out some interviews that we've done with artists and bands that have come through this weekend. And it's also just worth explaining. We're in the basement of the kind of hotel part of Victoria Warehouse, where all of the press and the artists have got dressing rooms and all that kind of stuff. And it's a beautiful location. We talked last year about the location, the venue. It's amazing, and I think what you guys have done with it this year has just really enhanced things from last year. What kind of things did you sort of come out the back end of last year and go, right, next year, this is how we need to step it up? And what's been achieved? What have you actually managed to nail?
Well, the customer journey for things like the masterclasses was really difficult because we had it in this building, and for people to understand that there were two buildings was quite challenging. So we had a bit of a drop off, and that's not really fair on the people who wanted to go to it. So we moved our dressing rooms down here. Oh, actually, the one blocker, there was a wedding in here last time because we got double booked.
Yeah.
Which is one of the radar themes of our existence. Through no one's fault, they just had an issue where someone accidentally booked a wedding in on the first day, who were all a bit bemused by this metal festival going on around them. But would we have done it the other way around? Probably, maybe it was.
I think hindsight is obvious, but then we'd never been here before, so I don't know if we'd have just gone with it because we were going with it anyway, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
Because it is a really nice space down here, but it sounds really silly, but we know, like if you are organising it, you know where to go. Mm. So it is not necessarily...
It's certainly simpler now.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because for those people who may be watching this that haven't been to the venue, it's a big building, warehouse, old school kind of converted warehouse in the middle of Manchester.
Very
or just on the
Manchester.
outside. Yeah, very Manchester, right? And that is where the music is. That's where the stages are, where the music market is, the masterclasses. And then you've got this other building, which is sort of a similar vibe, but a bit smaller on the side, which, is a corporate events thing, hotel, blah, blah, blah. And that's where we are, albeit the festival's happening in the other building. So it makes sense to keep that, backstage area in the other side rather than crossing the streams like you were forced to do last year, I suppose. So.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most interesting and well-decorated backstage area in the existence of modern music festivals, because the person who owns Victoria Warehouse and the hotel, as this building's called, which is incredibly confusing, and it's all covered in his sculptures that he collects, and there's a predator made out of junk over there. It's and the press area. I was saying to our press agent, "Is this the nicest press area you've ever been in?"
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We can confirm.
So it works really well, and then getting back to the thing, the customer journey is a lot simpler because this is backstage, that's front of house. We've moved things a little bit we had to move the merch area, and it kind of works, but kind of doesn't. Yeah, there's little things that we'd change, I think.
I like the merch area where it is, and actually I know that quite a few things sold out fairly early doors there, so maybe
None of us got any of the hoodies, which was sad.
Yeah, exactly. So,
we got a couple, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
Thank you for your continual support.
It's great, and as you said, the merch, it was a bit more front and centre, so that felt good, and also just, as you say, generally the feeling of flow seems to be a little bit clearer. Maybe it's because we've been here now and we've done this and whatever, but definitely it does sort of feel like the customer experience is simplified, which is always better. But there are other little things as well, right? Like putting a monitor up on the second stage, which has made a massive difference. I don't know if you've seen that there's lots of dancing going on back there, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, I don't want to keep talking and it not be Catherine, but you keep talking about the things that I do. But I think it could be better. Like, I really would like to have somehow found a way to have strapped some TVs on nearer columns at the front. That was the original idea. It's just everyone you go to and go, can you strap a television to a concrete post? And they're like, how the fuck do you do that? So it's a work in progress. And I'm actually, it's not even we haven't had particularly masses of negative feedback about it or anything, but I personally am pretty unhappy with the sound on the second stage. I think it could be better. We had to use a different PA this year, and it's just not as good as a DB PA that we had last year. And it's a really hard room. So, incremental improvements. I think that was the only thing that really went back. Oh, we're losing our caterer on the week of the event.
I was going to mention that as well. Is that, we know that you listen to feedback, and one of the things from last year was people saying there wasn't enough food options. And I know you worked really hard, and how disappointed you were that you got someone you were really happy with, and then 3 days before...
Do you want to talk about how I lied to you for a whole day?
No.
Did you? Was that just because you couldn't bear to tell her?
Well, she turned up at my house with half the crew to drive to Manchester, and I was sat at my computer while they were waiting for me in the driveway. Sorry to talk again, me. And then I got the call saying that the caterers all had COVID, and she looked a bit stressed, so I didn't really want to tell you. So I just messaged Jahan and went, right, this is what's happened. About to drive, I'll call you in 2 hours on our first stop, see what you can do. And actually, bless him, he'd sorted it by the time we got to Manchester.
We had quite a stressful Tuesday morning that I can't really talk about. It was behind the scenes, boring admin things, but it was very serious. And I had sorted that. And I think this is why we're a good team. I had sorted that, and you couldn't really help with some of it, so I had to sort it. So my payback was to get to you, hug you whilst looking terrified, because it's all internalised, I think, between the two of us, and we can only really tell each other the minutiae of everything, because everyone else would need so much more context for everything.
Catherine's got a tell, which I'm not sure many people pick up on, but I see it now when she's really stressed. I won't give it away.
No, exactly. And,
she starts hitting people.
and then you very kindly took the fall for that one. And
I only told you when it was looking like it was going to be resolved fairly painlessly, because it happened to us in 2022. We lost our caterer to COVID to the week of our second festival, when Boris suddenly went, there's no such thing as COVID, you can open your events in 6 months to organise it. And it's a lot easier to find a caterer in Manchester than it is in Guildford. But also, maybe a fault of ours is our caterer also does our crew and artist, and for us it allows us to combine, offset two costs. Like, they're making money one side, so we get a better deal the other side. And there isn't a lot of space for caterers in this place, because you can only have them outside at Victoria Warehouse. So finding someone who was willing to do both is very challenging. But yeah, somehow Jahan managed it pretty quickly. So
Fast becoming a problem solver and a sort of last minute rock star is Jahan.
He always looks very worried, but he tells me he's not worried now I've flagged it up. But
no, I think he does deserve a shout out. That not to quote another interview in an interview, I suppose, which is an odd way of doing it, but someone asked me earlier how many people ran Radar, and they were shocked to the point where I almost felt like saying, no, I'm okay, it's fine. When I said it was just the two of us predominantly, but, you know, we couldn't do it without, Jahan is absolutely the third. I am so tired, there is no metaphor coming, but the third wheel, but then I thought,
That's not good. That's not good.
Not what
No.
I meant. But
he's the third pillar of
thank
Radar.
you, that's what I mean. And Ash
One of many pillars.
Yeah, and Ash does all our marketing stuff and that sort of thing. So the four of us are more constant all year, is more what I mean. And yes, as soon as you get closer to that July, we sort of start adding. And in fact, I was saying to the other gentlemen, sort of like, we start activating the Google accounts, and then they just appear.
The technical manager appears, and
yes,
the
exactly.
operations manager appears, and
But,
yeah.
Yeah,
One of the
Jahan's-
conversations we've had before is about the team around you and the incredible atmosphere there is amongst that team, and how bands really respond to that. That's one of the things they tell us all the time, is how lovely everyone is, how helpful everyone is. And you can see that as well with the audience, and, you know, everyone has that feeling. And it's predominantly down to the team around you here. And I know that a lot of that is the lounge bar team, the lounge bar that you run in Alton, your venue, Catherine, and you take them with you, and you kind of gather people.
The parents
over the
go, where have
years.
they gone?
yeah.
Like a Pied Piper, yeah. But, you know, you've worked at festival, Guildfest, for example. I know there's quite a few people that you've worked with historically at Guildfest that you have then taken them with you, sort of.
Catherine only
cherry-picked all
brings
the
them
good
here
people.
so that they'll take the piss out of me.
Well, someone's
They
got to,
travel
Joe.
to do that. So
But it's the community, right?
Yeah.
I think there's something really wholesome. There were two people in particular that were at Guildfest with us in pivotal years, and there was something very difficult to describe to people that aren't in festivals about how intense it is when you're doing, say, 6 18-hour days. And I say that having just woken up from a nap on here, because I couldn't make it from the masterclasses to the basement without having a power nap on a friend's shoulder. And then when Jay was having to move, I was just like, right, I need sugar to get downstairs and then a nap. And I'm perfectly happy, but I've hit that wall of I calculated on the journey. That's how intense it was. I slept about 10 hours since Monday, so I just.
Well, I mean, you didn't have any excuse the first couple of days. The good thing about the venue, in one sense, is on the production days they kick us out at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'd go to like 1 o'clock in the morning if we could. So actually, we get sent out, go and have a beer, order some food, go to bed.
Yeah, but you say that, but I watched you in the hotel and you were all on your computers sorting things still until the early hours of the morning.
Only a
So
I
you
mean, I was
don't
trying
stop.
not to, but
you did. You
But,
tried not to,
I
but
think
you
I think
did.
there's a crossover of demand and passion. So you really want this to be the best thing you could possibly make it, and then understanding the work that comes along with fulfilling that vision. And I think it's what Julie was saying earlier about you listening to your audience as well. You take that very seriously and very personally, and that feeds in because you are a passionate bunch.
yeah, we do our best. It's really challenging. We took all the main criticisms last year and tried to do stuff about it. Not all of it went completely right. You know, people didn't like the food. We did our best, but kind of went wrong at the last second. We got the venue to drop drinks prices, but people are still saying it's too expensive. But equally, we do try and tell ourselves that, you know, there's thousands of people there and you're listening to a couple of voices. So it is a vocal minority, but they seem so much louder because you're sensitive to it, because you care.
I sent you an article that was in The Guardian recently, and that was talking about how festivals used to have to be able to sell 75% of their tickets to break even, and now it's like 98%. 98% to actually just break even. It just seems ridiculous, and that's because of rising costs. And
I think in some contexts, if you go to a festival, you know, we understand. We obviously, we love festivals, so we go to festivals. But because I work within it, if there is a slightly longer queue at some point, or if I can't, I mean, I never see a gig because I'm tiny. So it didn't really occur to me in the same way it would other people. But I suppose because we're in the industry and we understand it, it wouldn't occur to me to complain in the same way, simply because I know what has actually gone into it. And I think what is difficult to explain without sounding like you're whining about it is they haven't seen the 362 days that have gone into it, and they haven't seen big, you know, I have slept 10 hours since Monday, and you're right, I was on my laptop until 2 and 3 a.m. every single day this week. I went up to the hotel room and I still was doing some marketing and some content stuff and some mailer prep and that sort of thing, because it needs to be done and we want it to be the best it can be. And I don't see that like push to sort of like, God, you don't know what it could have been if I'd done a 9 till 5.
And we lost all our furniture this week as well.
Oh God, I almost forgotten about that. Yes.
The big furniture order, you know, all the extra benches we get for the venue, all the tables we need, all the extra things. The furniture company just ghosted us on delivery day.
Yeah.
The person on the other end of the phone who would answer the phone at 9 p.m, that kind of person's phone was off. And Catherine managed to somehow get pretty much the same order from someone else and save a little bit of money, which is always a lovely thing.
Well, by way of explanation, we saved some money because they didn't have everything that we needed and nowhere else was available at all. And we had, you know, we always have backups for things, so I started just going through them, but there wasn't the option of what we wanted. So it's that thing of, if, for example, and no one has, but if someone had turned around and said, oh, you were going to put more seating in, there weren't significantly more seats, and there were, but it's that thing, they didn't see that someone cancelled it on Wednesday at this sort of time, and it took me 4 or 5 hours of searching, ringing, begging and moving things around so that we could accommodate a delivery at completely the wrong time, and keeping all of the crew back to power that into the building so it was safe, because it's not our building and that sort of thing. And so if someone had said, I really wish there was one more bench, I would have quietly cried. but they don't see that.
And they only see the things
of course,
that you didn't quite manage to get the way you wanted to them, all the stuff that you've solved.
Yeah, we had really big plans for the second stage with trying to do some, get an Arts Council grant to do some tiered standing at the back.
Oh, right.
But we failed, and there's so much competition for Arts Council grants at the moment. We got a few last year, but and we have a bid writer and we take it very seriously and we churn them out. But they just like the competition is massive this year, and so we had to sort of shelve that. But we made the space the best we could. We raised the stage as much as we could. Obviously, if you look at that stage, you're going to brain yourself if you jump up, and so we only have so much wiggle room with it. But also, I mean, it's. We're feeling. I think we're both a bit knackered as we're here, and this has been the hardest year we've done this, right, by far. Hardest in the booking, hardest in the logistics, hardest financially. But then the success is, we hired one of our Discord mods, Scarlett, to be our accessibility coordinator, and she has smashed
she's been
it.
Amazing. Yeah.
She's bridged the gap between us and the venue. Because we're big believers, we don't just say it online, in making an inclusive event, and that starts with people who feel like they've been excluded because of accessibility. So and people who often need accessibility tickets kind of don't really feel very seen. And equally, whilst the venue sometimes gets a bit of negativity, because they're a big O2 venue and they're viewed as corporate, etc., they actually really care, and they're run by really kind, compassionate, hard-working people. We love the people that run these venues, and the hotel. The team here is amazing. We've got nothing but glowing things to say about them, and especially now we're in our second year with them, so we all know each other. You know who to speak to and what problem. The jokes are going backwards and forwards. We genuinely would go out for dinner with each other and stuff. And they've just been acting on everything that Scarlett's come to them with accessibility. Yeah. And we got a really lovely couple of emails from some people actually who said, look, people are very quick to criticise, so we want to be quick to praise you. This has been the best event I've ever been to for accessibility. So that was really lovely, and yeah, that is all Scarlett. We empowered her, obviously, and gave her some guidelines, but she just ran with it, and that was her success, not ours.
I think I put a message in our WhatsApp group yesterday because God, it was only yesterday as well. So, when we were watching something together, and I can't remember what it was for the life of me. But as I was standing there, we sold our first ticket for 2025, and I put in our as an announcement in our group, we've just sold our first ticket. That's a huge reflection on the team because there's no lineup, there's no further information. That is somebody taking the time to scan a QR code on the wall and say, yes, I commit regardless, which is a reflection on what that team out there is creating.
It says, I trust you, doesn't it?
Yeah, but when I actually got back and there was an email or a message somewhere, and the person that bought the first ticket had emailed in and said, I have different needs, you accommodated them so well that I have committed to next year because I loved this. And that was such a thing of, sometimes, and now is one of them, I am incredibly tired, and it's all, like, it is the weight of the world on your shoulders thinking, oh, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? But then you read things like that and just think, oh, that's why, yeah.
You've always been really open and honest with the people that come to your festival. You've never hidden anything.
We've tried.
You can't. But you've stared the feedback in the face, and you've done what you can successfully. Sometimes not. But you always listen and you always take on that feedback. So you're building something beyond just a lineup, and particularly when you look at. Okay, we just talked about accessibility is super important. Of course it is. And there's all the other things that go into this festival, whether it's the masterclasses, the market, the games area that you've got, and the food now is sort of. I know obviously space-wise you're a bit hampered, but the offering is far superior from what it was last year, despite the fact that you had a big old wobbly nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, and the the music and gaming market, which again is pretty much all Jahan. We just sort of go, that's a great idea. Maybe not. That's the limit of our involvement. Again, has evolved and got better. They kept some of the best bits from last year, added lots of new stuff. I mean, I'm musically inept, but seeing people being able to get their hands on the instruments and have a great time, fantastic. And the gaming. Again, the gaming's weird because it's kind of like booking the bands. So if there's a game that's suitable that's about to come out, they're really keen to be in something like this. If it came out like 2 years ago, why would they want to come here? So it's kind of like touring an album. So we're sort of on the lookout for something cool that could be here. We had Trepang last year, which was like perfect timing. They had like a gent soundtrack.
Yeah.
And maybe, we'll lean into that a bit more next year. We were sort of talking about there's some things we could do actually on the music that has a bit of a crossover. But,
It's funny you should say that because we've talked to quite a few bands about how well their sound would translate to a film soundtrack or a game soundtrack. So, I think it's an ideal audience for that.
Plenty of crossover.
Yeah.
And the music market's been good. Although the second I put it into print, I looked at it and went, oh, we just booked all men. Which is, we really do try and book progressively as well. But, at the same time, you can only book what's in front of you. But I did look at it and go, oh, crap. That's a bit against our ideals.
It is, but your ideals is exactly what's going into this. Because I think, what I was thinking was someone booking a ticket without seeing the lineup, right? That's a really nice feeling, and that's absolutely the dream for festivals. You are, by your own admission, a small size festival when compared to some of the other big guys out there. And actually, what you're trying to create with all these different things is an atmosphere outside of just, right, I'm waiting until I see the lineup. Of course the lineup's important. Of course it is. But actually, if you can try and build something that people love outside of just the lineup, they'll trust you on the lineup. So,
and also, I feel like I had a long conversation about this earlier, and I haven't spoken to you since, so I suppose, yeah, great, let's have it on camera
On a
again. But someone with it, you know, we talk about it a lot, and then we collectively talk quite a lot, that I am always asked about things to do with gender in terms of women in prog music, general music industry. We did a conversation with Lulu, for example, who is an amazing manager, and look at what she's achieved. And Lulu and I talk quite frequently. You know, I've known her for 12, 13 years at least, and it was obvious that she was going to do well. She was so driven, and it is hard, but also it is not hard. I think simultaneously, I always feel quite conflicted by being asked about being a woman in the music industry, because half of me thinks, and half of me thinks, well, yeah, it can be different. And the first year at Radar was an eye-opener, I think. Having had a venue for quite a long time, it was...
Actually, I don't think you should sidestep that, because I think it's important to say it on camera. Someone actually asked Catherine, said it was very nice that I gave her my AAA so that she could use the toilet backstage. And she was
Really?
like, you know, this is... okay.
Well, no, I said that I worked with you, thinking that would be a hint enough.
Yeah.
And the response was, what do you and Joe do outside of this then? I said, no, I run this with him.
Yeah.
And it was, and also, did they really think that the Loos backstage would be any nicer? But anyway, fine.
They were not.
Well,
They
no,
were not.
we
They
can
were
all say
far
that
worse.
we're not, yeah.
But one of the things that struck me today is someone asked me again about that sort of thing, but in a positive way of saying what it was. And I hadn't really, you know, we sort of briefly touched on this the other night, because we do most things as a team other than production. No, you can have it. Finance, I would rather.
I can barely add up.
Exactly. Hence, I would rather. But bookings I do some of the smaller ones because of the bar, and you know, you see the Akira sort of going through, and just it's not like I don't have my own taste. And the second stage, and Guildford was particularly sort of like, oh, yep, there she is, drop in the local music scene, etc. But this year, this is a team effort, but I think anybody that knows me in any capacity, that Saturday was just my 14-year pinnacle of, there is a band that I have a connection with, but I love that band. And, there's that band that I brought over to the UK for the first time, because I did that. And I don't mean that as an arrogant thing. But
And I took all credit.
Yes, I know. And
What do you mean I know? That was a joke.
But it was one of those things where actually my answer was not, I'm tired of answering this, but my answer was a positive thing. And you said the other night, sort of like, well, take credit for when you've actually done something. My answer was, look at that lineup. Women in music are fine.
And I know that you booked those bands because you just continually failed to put the key details in the spreadsheet that we do when we book the bands. And then it's a blind spot for me.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where it's just, you know, when you're asked, sometimes I find it patronising to be asked. Sometimes I find it an interesting conversation. And I think that is a completely natural human thing. But it was really nice to instantly have the answer of, yeah, women in music can do things. Enjoyed last night? Good, that was me.
They never do it in front of me, which is weird. But I do find sometimes when we're talking, people focus on me, and I do this with my eyes. I sort of trying to direct them to look at Catherine as well, because I find it really awkward. You know,
And you know, we joke about many things about you know, our own sort of like internal jokes about who does what or whatever. Many people have said in the last few months, actually, God, what a team the two of you are, and in a complimentary manner. And I never feel, and never have, that you don't see me as an equal in the slightest. Not for that reason. No, but like, you couldn't be more supportive. And
that's a small window into us being mean to each other all the time.
But also, outside of just you, Catherine, you both are very supportive and open and inclusive with the people that you work with and the teams that you build. Not just inclusive in terms of gender, cultural background, race, and all that sort of stuff, but actually there is a sort of a lot of the people, Catherine, particularly that you bring from your teams at your venue, you've got Heather, who is, running around, bossing people around backstage. You've got these bands coming
We're
off
all
their...
scared of Heather.
Yeah, they're coming off their tour wagon and seeing this tiny little thing who then turns into an absolute, sergeant major. Brilliant. She's incredible.
Yeah.
Beth running the merch stand has been an absolute, powerhouse. These are opportunities that you want to give to your teams and people who step up and deserve it. And I think that's, there's... Yes, of course, there's a meritocracy side of it, but you actually positively, both of you get together and go, no, this is something we want to make sure everyone's got fair opportunity.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever made it a conscious thing, but then when we were filling in one of the endless forms that we had to, we realised that we were 65-35 that year in terms of 65% women, 35% men being hired, and we hadn't noticed. It was only when we'd...
That is not the norm in the music industry. No. It is not.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, in the places I've worked, I generally have always had a female boss. I think I only had one boss, my old boss, Mike. There was a man, and so I've always thought of it was quite normal, really. But it also happened when I worked at the boiler room. My old boss, Dom, I'd be stood next to her, and a man would talk at me, and I'm going, well, I do not make these decisions. This is her venue, and like that thing, I'd be going.
Well, when Heather and I were running the venue predominantly on our own, it was only the two of us that had discussed anything advancing-wise and that sort of thing. And we'd regularly sit in the venue, watch someone come in, do a tour of the venue, go and speak to the caretaker, who was male, and ask for details. And he'd be like, well, I don't know. But it was that thing there. Catherine and Heather are not gender-neutral names in general. And so you just think, well, why did you think I was emailing you? Yeah. Like, what did you expect from this interaction? Like, I'm not...
I did make the mistake once at the boiler room, and I never made it again. And I did completely assume that a person who got off a bus was not the tour manager because she was a woman. And I just went, oh, where's the tour manager? And they went, I'm the tour manager. And I just died inside and, made a conscious effort never, ever to do that again. So, I can see people slipping up and stuff, but also equally it can be quite a male dominated world. It is totally changing, and we're trying to help with that, but you should never make assumptions, and that's kind of what we sort of try and draw into everyone as well.
It's interesting because the lineup as well, outside of just you guys and the industry itself, the lineup, it's really difficult. We've had lots of conversations in the past with promoters who kind of really have to think, okay, now I've got my lineup. Is this a balanced affair? Is representation fair on this lineup? And others who say, honestly, I don't think about it because I just want to book the bands that people are interested in and want to see.
It's really difficult because, one, you can only book what's in front of you. So, on a normal festival cycle, we may talk to potentially 20 bands to headline, and we would love a female headliner who is the female headliner instead of having a band who has a woman in it or such, and as a milestone, because we're in quite a male-dominated corner of the music world. But yeah, you can only book what's in front of you. And if you saw our initial "this is our festival for this year" list, it looks very different to what comes around because some can do it, some can only do different days, and but equally, a friend, someone took one of our initial lineups like the year before or something and squiggled out every band that didn't have a woman in it. It was there for like one band, and they tweeted like, I hope this is going to improve. And actually we had quite a few bands of women who we hadn't announced and or couldn't announce, but we sort of took that on board quite a bit. And I was chatting to my friend Tony Brooker, who she works for the music venues. She's a really music venue science. She's a really old friend of mine, and I sort of said about it, and she said, well, if you think that you might feel there's a problem, there probably is. And she made a really good point that, okay, look, maybe the top third of the lineup is those bands that primarily there to sell the tickets, and maybe you can't compromise on what you can get. So, that is what you end up booking, but you've got a lot of wiggle room with the lower down lineup where you can book bands you just like and give people chances, and they'll be the bigger bands of tomorrow. And that's kind of impacted our booking quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I mean, something like Sestra, for example, I know the pedigree of Sestra. She's vocal producer for Tesseract. She's done work with architects to Bring Me the Horizon, but she's not known under her own moniker as much at all.
Yeah, she's hugely successful.
Yes. And it was one of those things where I said to you, she was like, yep, this...
And I was worried because her plays on Spotify aren't massive, but equally that's a really bad metric to book bands by, because it doesn't actually mean that much.
No.
But her set was one of the ones that I think most that I could think of that people have come up to me and said, did you see it? I was like, yeah, and I know. But, it's that satisfying thing of, yeah, told you so. And we have, I completely agree, we've got that space to have fun with, and that was sort of the thing of Seething Akira, of, so like, yeah, they could have that boost up because they're absolutely brilliant, and I knew they'd bring the party, and I just laughed throughout the whole of their set. I just looked into that room and was like, I knew that would happen.
I mean, I guess, that we just walked the diplomatic minefield of it all with our honest opinions on how we try and book it. But I guess there has been a grassroots problem of getting it to not just be boys doing bands, and that is shifting. Definitely. And you can see it with the bands that are coming up. So hopefully it will arrest itself. Obviously it's not going to do it on its own, but I feel that there are enough people who are now feeling like they can be in a band.
Yeah.
That we can move forward and it not be such a, I need to book X or Y, and we're just booking music, because there's actually a good split.
So on the booking side, what's next year looking like? Have you kind of...
Slayer, Anthrax.
all the old white guys, let's get them all in.
Well, we've pulled all of our... At the time of this podcast, we had quite a few offers out and did quite a lot of stuff, and we pulled all of our offers because we moved dates in the last second before the festival to come a bit earlier in the year. And obviously you have to renegotiate the offers at that point. So it's all up in the air, but more of the same. But maybe we feel we pushed it a bit in different directions more than we should have this year. We're not sure. We need to take stock of it, really, I guess. We have booked one, but there was one confirmed band who could just move over, who all we'll say is a band who we've nearly had many times.
Right.
And they will be there next year.
So it'll be a first time for some band next year.
Who should have played.
Yeah, okay, interesting. We'll set the room mill alight.
Yeah. The internet's going to be on fire talking about the one band Radar's booked.
So what about the rest of the festival outside of the bands? Have you got any plans to sort of make any significant changes? Or...
More MMA and more WWE.
Yeah, more wrestling is... I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
I'm on board with that.
But I think some people sort of look at it like next year we've got to do something different, and actually other people think no, just consolidate, like really nail the basics of what you've got going.
I mean, with the space, we can't ever. It's always got to be evolution, not revolution, because you can only bend those amount of rooms to the will. But Jahan looks at the music and gaming market like the lineup. You can't just book the same thing. Even though it's funny, people want the same thing as last time, but then they don't. And until they come and see the new thing, they think the last one was the one. Subverting expectations can be good. It can be risky. I think we're always going to have the gaming. We're always going to have
you
the
should always
music
have
market
the booth
stuff.
You can scream in, because that's never going to get old.
Yeah, Scan smash it with that. Actually, shout out to Scan, because their corner of the music market is absolutely brilliant.
And the video game, the Mario game on the drum kit.
We saw loads of bands playing that, actually.
Yeah,
because the bands love that too. I was going to say that too. It's not just people who appreciate that extra element that you bring.
Too.
But yes, But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not
of
just the
course.
people who are paying for a ticket, but the
Yeah.
people who are playing. And that's got to be good news for you, that band enjoy being here.
Yeah, I think that was something that the recording I did with Jay earlier, it was interesting hearing the opinion of someone that I trust a huge amount in terms of being honest about pitfalls or sort of things that are shining to him, and him just saying how much fun it was to come here as a musician because he had so much to do. Because and having that hub of all the people that are interested, as you say, in sort of new cymbals and new guitars and that sort of thing, aren't necessarily just customers. There's also the bands that are sort of like, well, I was thinking of looking at this. So
Yeah, and Lucas from Holding Absence, he was like, oh, I really, really love those. What were they? The wiggly chords or something?
That's the technical name.
That's the technical name, yeah.
The things that plug into something is, oh, they're our favourite thing. And he rushed off to look at a stand.
Yeah. Well, because we saw Holding Absence because Lucas was playing the Mario game, and then we were having a chat with him and I can't remember his name, the bass player, but we were chatting with them, and he was just distracted by all this stuff around him. That he was like, no, I've got to go over here and do this now, and it's like it's really nice vibe if you're in any way inclined to that kind of thing, and if you're not, there's something for you there. It's not just about music, as you mentioned, computer games, the gaming area at the back where you can go and sort of look and peruse and test board games and things. A really nice idea.
I found the only flaw that I've noticed instantly was
It's the first floor.
is the masterclass is generally run by my lounge bar team and
Khan.
And yes, no, sorry, I mean, he's managing it, but I mean, it is run by a lot of the people that are around the lounge bar. And there were some proper muso nerds within my team, and I kept losing them in the middle of something, and then I'd find them looking at guitars and looking at something in the market and just think, oh God, I'm forcing them to walk through, and they're like magpies that just disappear as I'm talking to them sometimes, and just go...
Weirdly, there's not a lot up there for me because I don't play an instrument or anything.
But no, that's not true, because there is a vegan bakery up there.
Yeah,
Steph, our artist liaison.
Yeah.
Sold out completely. The queue was massive.
Yeah, we went up there.
She has been bribing us with cake every day.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the highlight? I mean, we've still got a few hours left to go. What's been your highlight so far, Catherine?
I think I would be boring to talk about it more extensively because I have done elsewhere with you.
Yes.
But it took 14 years to get Tesseract and Dirty Loops as a thing, and I did, and it honestly just brought me so much pure joy. And seeing Jay this morning even, and one of the first things he said was, I'm still happy about that performance last night. And I've known that man a very long time. He's never happy about a performance maybe that's unfair. I think he's learnt that he can't be perfect all
Jay
the
from
time.
Tesseract.
Yes.
And if we're going to put the interview with yourself and Jay out later on, but even in that, he would admit, I think his phrase was, I'm the arse.
And I would agree.
Yeah.
But, he's very self-deprecating about his talent. And so he will always be the person that would come off stage and say, I did this feel wrong, I did that wrong. And it's just like, I'm sure everyone has also noticed. But
all musicians do that, don't they?
No, of course. But he came off and was just like, I loved that. And just hearing that was such a nice thing of...
So, boring answer, your friend's Tesseract.
No, not just because they're my friends. I think that set was just, as a fan, which is a separate thing, they really stepped it up.
They did.
They really did.
They did,
And
big time.
It was just, that vision is something that I do really admire in terms of they are by nature inherently creative individuals that come together and have done that. And in the same way that it wouldn't matter if I didn't know them, I was still impressed by that performance and that production. And that was absolutely stunning. The fact that it was my friends made it hit in a different way personally, but it was still an amazing thing to watch.
I completely agree. It was a stunning performance, a real headliner set, big headliner set. They went all out. It was amazing. How about you, Joe? And you can throw forward to the future if you're looking forward to something that you're going to catch in the next couple of hours.
No, I mean, it is actually the boring answer as well, was Tesseract. I mean, we worked on it for such a long time. We had it booked before the last radar, and we couldn't announce them for such a long time, because, agent things and tours and such. But so we had to really sit on it. I did wear a Tesseract cap all last year as a bit of a clue.
I put quite a lot of clues out. We used to have a silly...
it's supposed to be mine.
Sorry. Yeah,
no, you tell your story.
When they played at the bar the last time, I wasn't allowed to announce them, so I wrote out in acrostics...
Oh, lovely.
Tesseract in the event listings when Facebook events were more of a thing. And we've always...
actually worked.
Yeah, and we've always had an internal sort of joke about how silly that was for various reasons. And so the only thing I put as a sort of... summary on social media of Radar 2023, I spelt Tess 2025 in acrostics. I can't remember what it was, like tired.
As in Discord.
No, I put it everywhere.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice you were doing this.
And none of the Tess boys noticed but it was just my own joke. It's not like you don't know me enough to know that was just for my own amusement. That was fine. And then Ackle messaged me and just went, "You've just spelt Tess out." And then about 5 minutes later, one by one, they all just like, "That's hilarious. You're definitely not allowed to put that in public." And I just spelled it out. I think I put like tired, emotional, super, or whatever it was. But yeah. And that made me really laugh because
we do torture our Discord server quite a lot with little clues. Like before holding hands, we just kept going, "Ha ha," and they just don't trust anything we say, because equally we'll deny everything, and we'll. Sometimes I've openly said what we're going to do without them realising, and they just don't know how to trust us really. And the Discord server is incredible because they're like our hardcore, the community, and they're there all year round. They all meet up, they go to gigs together.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. But going back, it is Tesseract, because I've known them not quite as well, but for as long as Catherine, and we all used to go to Southfield Park Arts Centre. I worked there, Catherine went there for gigs, Jay used to do the door for our friend Al, who ran the Cellar Bar gigs, where everyone has been through, like Fell Silent, Monuments, and it's just mad when you say it. Like some of the lineups that went through that tiny cellar. Yeah. And I was saying to them after they got off stage, looking at the productions, like, come a long way since the Cellar Bar, and it's just really, it's lovely to see. And they also, the nice thing is, because I was saying, well, when you see someone they've just played and everyone's like, "Oh, well done, that's a great set." But I sort of checked myself and went, actually, no, thank you, because they really wanted to provide something incredible for us. And I think they actually fully delivered it. We did have, madly, for everyone who watched it and reflecting on it, we had grander plans. We were trying to put in some Arts Council money to give them more money to go even madder.
Wow.
And we couldn't do it, because, as we said, it's a difficult year this year. No one's got any money. But it could have been so much madder.
But that sort of opens the door to go big next year, and it sort of sets the precedent, for bands coming next year to like, we've got the time, and then we can
to measure up.
We can put on a real show.
I mean, Catherine always tells me off for this because having a headliner back so quickly isn't always the best. But I really want to rebook Periphery in a year or two and do that. Let's do something a bit bigger. And this isn't. It's going to happen. It's just a thought in my head, but I have lots of thoughts in my head that don't happen.
Well, no.
Sometimes for good legal reasons. I'm really looking forward to going to Art Tangent and having a beer. And seeing Gav, talking about it with Gav, and then knowing his event's coming up soon and telling him it's going to be hard for him. That's going to be brilliant.
Yep.
Lovely community of absolute ball breakers.
He was lovely. Gav from Damnation, he sent us a really nice message on the first day, and It's funny because in a sense we're all in competition with each other, but we were hanging around with Gav and James Scarlett and a load of their guys at Download, and I was saying to them, there's not a lot of people in the country that do what we do. For a few of us to be stood there, and Cam, who's the Download guy, like Cam is so supportive of us and always there to give us advice. And shout out to the Two Promoters One pod, because we just watched that going, this is promoter school, And although we're, a few years down the line, we're like, oh yeah, we did that. Oh my God, we didn't make that mistake. Yeah. That was wonderful. Yeah. Or I'm so glad they do that as well.
So I caught myself, you referenced it earlier, in terms of like sitting in the lobby of the hotel working on things really late, because we were talking about something to do with 2025 tickets, and in reference to what we were briefly saying about sort of like, it is at heart, obviously there were loads of other people, but at heart it is just the two of us. And we were sitting there, didn't want to do things. We was both so exhausted. And then someone said to me, "Oh, what? Something to do with next year tickets." And I just thought, well, I haven't done that. And so the only other option is that you've done that, and you hadn't done that, and just thought, oh no, the website doesn't just get updated, does it? One of us has to update it. And it's just, and I know that's an incredibly obvious thing, but even I catch myself thinking, have Radar updated? Oh no,
I tidied it up today, by the way.
Thank
now
you
that
very
the other
much.
ones are off sale. Yeah.
But it's a small team. It's
Yeah.
you guys, and the idea that you're just promoters or bookers is quite frankly laughable.
Your to-do list is a million miles long.
Yeah, exactly.
Always.
And we also missed the bands we really want to see. I missed Voller on Friday, and everyone said it was the best set they've ever played, and I didn't see a second of it.
It was. It wasn't that good. It was really good. Yeah, we saw that. It was really.
I got the limited edition T-shirt. That's all. That
Well,
matters,
let
so.
me just sweeten the pill then, and this is a bit of an insight into the conversation we had with Vola, which we'll also be playing in the next couple of weeks. They felt that as a band they have grown with Radar Festival.
no, that's nice.
So there you go. Can't say
We need to try and outgrow them now, because when bands outgrow us, it's really sad, and we can't have them back.
I was saying we have to sort of like, let's both level up in the next few years, and then Tess want to come back and improve on that, and so
I'm sure Sleep Token want to come back as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, once they've done with all the arenas, and
they'll be knocking.
whenever they headline Download, which is inevitable one day, they're going to go.
we really miss Radar.
Let's do 3 nights at Radar.
Well,
if you're listening,
if the space, we'll consider it.
yeah, I think we would reluctantly have them back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we will continue to talk to you guys in the coming weeks and months, and hopefully
I'm
get
sorry
you
that you have to do that.
Well, no, I want to say, and Julie and I both feel very privileged to be asked by you guys to come and do this, because we've had a great time.
It's because we're crap at talking.
I know
quite good at it.
that, but they don't know that at home. But yeah, so thank you so much, and we'll be continuing to talk
And
to
I
you guys.
interrupt you all the time.
Well, no, it's fine. I need interrupting.
It does.
Because I do like the sound of my own voice.
I like the sound of your voice.
No, thank you for doing this. I think it means a lot. And in terms of, a lot of people, have asked how we do things and how things are arranged, and how it all comes together.
It usually starts with, "Oh fuck, I haven't done this."
Yeah, but actually, I think this weekend again, I've had the conversation not with you but with other people. So I'm so glad I do this festival with you. So thank you for being my other half in my festival. I appreciate that.
Really bad at giving compliments, but yes, you too.
Well, how sweet a moment is that?
Refer to the Khan podcast where we had to be nice to each other for a little bit, and both of us are hating everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely failed.
No,
miserably.
Catherine's brilliant. She is annoyingly chirpy sometimes. and always finds a silver lining in the most dire situations, which actually I find really frustrating, because I just wanted to go, "It's shit, isn't it?" I'm like, yeah, it's shit. But yeah, we're very good at motivating each other, keeping each other going, and I hate giving compliments. I again wouldn't want to do it with anyone else.
There we go. You made it happen. Well done. You got it. Well, look, great.
I wouldn't cry.
Well, great. It's been an awesome weekend. We've had a ball, as have many of the people we've spoken to, and bring on next year.
Before we wrap this up, but there are lots of people we should actually thank. Like all of our teams, our stage teams have been amazing. Artist liaison, who are the reason that the bands say they've had such a great time.
Yeah.
Jodie, my partner, is the artist liaison manager, long-suffering partner, and she clocked something
38,000 steps
yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. And we got back to the hotel and I found her soaking her feet in the bath. Artist liaison,
Like all the content is put out by Sam, my husband. He's sitting in there churning through everything and
with the content team
and making sure that the socials are looking beautiful, and it does an amazing job. And
then there's the content team who just make us look good all year. Ash and Khan and everyone, and Jahan working upstairs.
Yeah.
Angelo, who's our operations manager, makes everything tick, and with him Leslie and Mark, who essentially just constantly dealing with problems.
Yeah.
Lounge Bar team, Dog Boy, who we refuse to pay and make him come here so he can sit and help with the gear with Heather and those guys. And there's so many people that I'm not name
Jack
checking.
for making you laugh all the time.
Yeah.
Inappropriately.
Yeah.
Jack, who we make come drive a van and erode his mental health, picking people up at 4:00 in the morning.
Yes. Again, some of the conversations that Jack and I have had this weekend are really not safe for broadcast.
He is not safe for television.
It's a great team you've got. It's a really great festival. Well done. Just pat on the back. And
Deep breath. On
Deep
to next
breath.
year.
We're getting there. We love what we do. We always want to make it better. It's kind of weird that there's a year between every time, and you have to wait such a long time to enact the changes. But maybe we'll just do 2 a year.
Yeah.
I didn't say 3.
yeah, no, look on the bright side.
We could do a north-south twice a year.
Don't say it on camera.
We're not going to do it.
Well, thank you for giving us your time as well over this weekend, interviewing bands and getting your perspective, as well as Jahan as well, who was made a heroic fill-in for...
I am going to be interested in that one.
Yeah, I may have to send you the rushes
should
for
watch
that.
the raw footage.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe we'll put it behind a paywall or something, and everyone can see it.
I can tell you it would be quite an expensive ticket as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but good luck with everything, and we'll see you next year definitely, and talk to you before then.
What are our dates? 4th, 5th, 6th?
July? Yeah, I'm sure it looked like that.
Yeah. First weekend in July.
First weekend of July.
Exciting.
Exciting. All right, go and get a beer. Enjoy yourself.